Good afternoon. My name is Stefan Ryll and I'm a professor here at Southern New Hampshire University in beautiful Manchester, New Hampshire. And today we're going to make a duck terrine. Terrine are usually known for their bold flavors and their great creativity which chefs can impress their guests with. They're originally done in earth molds and then baked, and then nowadays we're making them more in ceramic molds or also in stainless steel molds. Terrines make a great appetizer and also can be broken down into little smaller pieces, and then they make an excellent amuse-bouche. Today I'm going to show you how we're going to prepare a duck terrine with pistachios and dried cherries. The first step we have to do for this, we'll take our duck meat, which we cut up in about 1-inch pieces, and also some fat back, which is from the pork, the fat back side. We use about 2 pounds of duck breast or duck meat. We want to use the whole duck, not just the duck breast, because also the thighs and the legs have a lot of flavor and fat that we want to grind into the terrine. And then we're going to fold in 6 ounces of fat back. We're going to have 1 tablespoon of salt, about 1 teaspoon of white pepper. We add a 1/4 teaspoon of tinted curing mix. This kind of is a tinted curing mix, a very strong salt that preserves the meat so there's no bacteria that can grow in it. And then we're going to add about 2 tablespoons of chopped sage, fresh chopped sage, and 1 tablespoon of fresh chopped chives. Then we're going to mix all our ingredients nicely together so they kind of like marinate and sit for a little bit. And now we're going to put them into the freezer for about 30 minutes on a very cold refrigerators to semi-freeze them, because then your meat is easier to grind when it's nice and chilled and semi-frozen. And with this, we're going to put it into the freezer. Now that our meat mixture with the salt and the herbs and the spices is nicely semi-frozen and chilled, we're going to grind it to our meat grinder. Okay. First we're going to do it to a 1/4-inch plate, a medium plate, and then we're going to do it to a very fine plate, which is an 1/8 of a plate. Very important when you grind meat that your grinding equipment is always chilled. The best thing is you pop it in the freezer for a few minutes, or at least for 30 minutes in the refrigerator, so all your equipment is nice and chilled. And also the bowl we're going to grind in, you want to make sure it sits on a bed of ice, so your grinded meat always stays emulsified, so it doesn't break, because the fat is your binder, and if it gets too warm, the emulsion will break and you will not get a very nice and smooth terrine. And with the grinding, just make sure you have your nice small 1-inch bite pieces. Your knives are nice and sharp, and then you're looking for a nice smooth stream, kind of like spaghetti-like meat that's coming out on the blade of the meat grinder. And if you have a sharp plate, you will not need much pressure to get all your meat grounded. And now at the end of our grinding process, make sure all the meat is nicely coursed through. Want to make sure we don't forget anything inside the grinder. And now we have a beautiful grind mixture of the herbs, the fat back, and the duck meat. And now we're getting ready. Make sure we always stay on ice, so we fold it nicely. Remember, our emulsion should stay together, and that ice will help to prevent this. We have 3 ounces of diced ham. We also have 2 ounces of pistachio nuts, roasted pistachio nuts, and 2 ounces of dried cherries. And then we're going to fold them in very nicely into our meat mixture. They will give some great flavors. The dried cherries will give them some sweetness. The ham will add a little bit saltiness to it. And then you have the pistachio nuts to give it a nice little crunch in your terrine. So you have all these sweet, great flavors combined, and they make a great terrine. And now we're going to go get ready to line our terrine mold. Okay. Now that our farce meat is nicely incorporated with the ham, pistachios, and dried cherries, we're going to line our terrine mold. Okay. First step in this, I lined already terrine mold with a plastic wrap. You want to make sure it's nice and tight to your sides. When you have a little overlaying cap hanging right here. Okay. Then we're going to take our sliced ham, slices about 6 till 8, depends on the size of your terrine mold. You want to have a slight little overlap of the ham slices as well, because as the terrine cooks, the heat will shrink a little bit. You know, you give up moisture and the ham will get a bit smaller, and you want to make sure it covers the entire size outside, top and bottom of your terrine. So you want to have it nicely molded, make sure the bottom is covered and your sides all the way from the beginning to the end nicely done. So perfectly filled out. And after you got this step done, now you can filling your farce meat into the terrine mold. Now the molds were originally back in the old days, terrine molds were done out of unglazed clay or terracotta, another name for that one. But nowadays, terrine molds are more done out of, like we see here, ceramic, stainless steel, or also plastic sometimes. You have high heat plastic and take it, these terrine molds work much better. They have more hygiene factor, and you can reuse them many, many times. Now the key thing is when you fill your farce meat into here, that you put a lot of pressure into it, because you don't want any air gaps in this one. Because then you have, when you kind of slice the terrines, and you have an air gap, you have a little hole in there. So once in a while you want to go a bit like this, and then you just bang the air out of this. And then we're going to complete and fill more, and always make sure we press nice down so there's no air holes or gaps in the filling. Now the students in my class, okay, they're usually the garde-manger classes now these days, they like to use different shapes of terrines. You don't have to do like we just have a basic rectangle. We're also going to use these days triangles, spirals, or oval terrine molds. And the students these days also like to use smaller terrine molds. This way you can be a little bit more creative. It's a bit more difficult to make them nice, because you have to really just a small amount of room to work with. But it gives the students a great amount of creativity to make a nice terrine in there. By the way, when you get halfway full with this terrine, you also can put some garnish inside, like green blanched asparagus, or maybe you roll the duck breast up into a round spiral, semi-freeze it, lay it in here. So you have a nice little centerpiece. There's a lot of things that can give you many creativity in creating these kind of terrine. Now the terrine is completely filled up. Bang it one more time. Make sure there's no air gaps inside. And then we're going to close our sides nicely. First, our left-hand side with the ham, fold them over. And then the right-hand side. And make sure you have a nice overlap. So like I said, as the terrine will be cooking, it will be shrinking a little bit because the fat content goes out. And you want to make sure they're nice there. You always want to make sure they're always in the same level. So make sure they're pressed down correctly. And then we'll close them up, our final step, with the plastic wrap. Make sure this is nice and airtight. We'll close it with our lid. Okay. And then we're going to put our farce terrine mold right into a 170 degrees water bath. And the reason why we put it into a 170 degrees water bath is because when the terrine cooks in the water bath, it protects it from extreme temperature stretches, extreme temperature changes. So by sitting in the water bath, it gets evenly cooked, and we don't have to get it on one side of the terrine is burned and the other one is maybe not quite done. We're going to put this in the oven at 300 degrees for about 50 till 60 minutes until the internal temperature of the terrine reaches 165 degrees. So we're going over to our oven, which is set at 300. Slide the terrine in. And voila! In 60 minutes, we will probably have a beautiful looking terrine. Now our terrine is all the way cooked. at an internal temperature of 165. We took it out of the oven, let it rest for about 60 minutes to 90 minutes. Make sure it's not totally hot and steaming anymore. And then we're going to press it and chill it. We're going to do little press plates, which you take styrofoam and you just cut them in the shape of your terrine mold. In this case, we take 2 to make sure it covers our entire terrine. And then you wrap them in either aluminum foil or plastic wrap, and that works perfectly. You apply them evenly to your terrine. Then you add 2 1-pound weights onto the press plates, so the terrine will chill smooth, get nice and evenly pressed, and you have a nice straight and easy thin slice cutting terrine. We'll put them in the refrigerator for at least 3 hours to chill with the press plate on it, or it can stay up to 3 days. And now we're going to put it into the refrigerator. Our terrine has chilled overnight, and it's beautiful done. As you can see it here, we have our dried cherries, we have the pistachio nuts, the diced ham, beautiful color with the herbs, and a nice emulsification, no air gaps, no locks, very nicely done. So now we're going to come to our presentation. First on our plates, we're going to put a little bit of arugula lettuce. I like the nuttiness and the earthiness taste of arugula, so I like to work with it a lot. We'll tie it a little bit in the corner, nicely put in here. Next thing we're going to add is a little bit of roasted beet salad. I roasted the beets ahead of time, and then I cut them like in a spiral spaghetti cutter, and then tossed them with a little bit of olive oil and a little bit of apple cider vinegar. Add a little bit brown sugar for the flavor, and there you have a beautiful roasted beet salad. We're also going to add our cucumber. I make the little cucumber cup, and here we have Dijon mustard, or pretty much whole grain Dijon mustard aioli, which is very nice that you can spread onto your toasted French bread, and then you eat the terrine with it. So we add a little bit into the cup. Add this as well to our plate. We have some nice French baguette that I just tossed. It goes very well with the terrine because you have the nice smooth grainy mouthfeel from the terrine, goes with the bread and the spread of the mustard. We add our terrines. 2 slices is usually a perfect slice for an appetizer. A little bit of yellow peppers, just for color. Looks nice with the presentation. A few small pickles. Pickles go very well with the terrine. And then finally, I made beet and balsamic vinaigrette. So when I roast the beets, I use the juices, puree them down, a little balsamic vinegar, a little bit of brown sugar, and a slight touch of lemon. We'll drizzle just a bit on the plate for color, and a little bit over our salad. That's a nice big flavor. And the final touch, since we had sage in our terrine, I also got to put a little sage for the garnish, and we also had chives in there, so I get a little chive leaves into it to give the whole plate a little bit height in the presentation. Make sure they set them correctly. Okay, and there we have it. Our duck terrine with pistachios, dried cherries, and diced ham. Dijon mustard aioli, pickles, toasted French bread with arugula salad, and a roasted beet salad. Enjoy. I'm going to take some shots. And if you would like to know more about the culinary program here at Southern New Hampshire University, please visit us at snhu.edu/culinary. Have a fantastic day.